Class, I'm going to continue this lecture for week 2, day 1 on social media that aligns with the concept of legal. So I'm going to show you this YouTube video, and then we'll talk about the contents after you view it. I have two great examples of a student nurse and a very experienced nurse who unfortunately makes some serious mistakes in regards to social media and faces some very serious consequences. So let's look this over and see what we think.
Emily was a nursing student in a pediatrics rotation. She cared for Tommy, a 5-year-old patient who was recently diagnosed with type 1 diabetes.
Tommy was going home soon, so she took a cell phone picture of him to remember him by. That evening, she posted his picture on her Facebook page, commenting how brave he was when he got his insulin injections. 2 days later, Emily was called into her dean's office. A nurse from the hospital had seen the photo and caption and reported them to hospital officials. Emily was informed that her actions were a breach of her patient's confidentiality and a violation of federal privacy laws. Even though Emily had an excellent record as a student nurse and had only the best intentions in her post, she was expelled from her nursing program, and the program was barred from using the pediatrics unit for their students. Hi, I'm Kelly, a staff nurse here at the hospital. If you use social media properly, what happened to Emily will never happen to you. Nurses are increasingly utilizing social media not only for personal use, but also as a way to foster professional connections and timely communications with patients and their families. The social media used inappropriately can result in disclosing too much patient information and violating their rights to privacy and confidentiality of information. This is what happened to Emily. Healthcare organizations typically have clear policies governing employee use of electronic and social media in the workplace. It is outside the workplace, however, where policies are often less clear and the potential for inappropriate use of social media is greatly increased. Effective nurse-patient relationships are built on trust. A cornerstone of that trust is patient privacy, which is a key part of a patient's expectation of being treated with dignity and respect. Any patient information that a nurse has access to during the course of treatment must be safeguarded. With very limited exceptions, such information may only be disclosed to other members of the healthcare team for the purpose of providing care for the patient. Improper use of social media by nurses may violate state and federal laws, including the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or HIPAA, which was enacted to further protect patient privacy. Additionally, inappropriate uses of electronic and social media may be reported to your Board of Nursing, resulting in possible disciplinary action for unprofessional or unethical conduct, breach of confidentiality, or other infractions. While it's true that some intentional or malicious misuses of social media do occur, the majority of inappropriate disclosures or postings are unintentional. Usually, they're the result of the mistaken belief that the communication or posting is private and accessible only by the intended recipient, that content deleted from the site is no longer accessible, or that it is acceptable to discuss or refer to a patient in a posting if they're not identified by name. By being cautious and alert to potential or improper uses of social media, you can avoid inadvertently disclosing confidential information concerning your patient. Remember, you have an ethical and legal obligation to maintain patient privacy at all times. This means that you should never take photos or videos of patients using your cell phones or other personal devices. Be sure to follow employer policies for taking photos or videos of patients for treatments or other permissible purposes by using employer-provided devices. Even experienced nurses should be vigilant about avoiding serious violations of patient confidentiality, as Jason learned. Jason has been a nurse for 12 years and is working in hospice care. One of his current patients, Maria, maintains a hospital-sponsored online page to keep her family and friends updated on her battle with cancer. One day, she posted something about her depression and the difficulty of finding effective treatments for her physical pain. Jason saw the post and responded by writing a comment to Maria. He wrote that he understood her last few days had been difficult, and he was hopeful that the new medication, along with the increased dose of morphine, along with the increased dose of morphine, would provide some needed relief.
Jason ran into a friend who said she saw his post. She said Maria was an old family friend, was sad to hear of her condition, and asked Jason how long he thought Maria had left. Now fully realizing the implications of what he had done, he immediately went home and tried to remove his post, but was unable to do so. Besides, even if he had been successful in removing it, it may have already been copied by others and posted elsewhere. At his next visit with Maria, Jason told her what had happened and apologized. Jason then self-reported his breach of patient confidentiality to his board of nursing and is awaiting the board's decision concerning any disciplinary action. Jason learned the importance of carefully considering the full implications of posting any information about patients on any website, including hospital-sponsored sites. It may at times be appropriate for nurses to express empathy and support for patients on a website, but they must be careful not to disclose private patient information. Inappropriate use of social media can derail someone's dream to be a nurse. It did for Emily. But even for experienced nurses like Jason, who have exceptional work histories, inappropriate use of social media can and does happen. Remember, increased access to communication through social media does not change a healthcare professional's responsibility to protect patient information. In fact, it actually makes it easier to inappropriately share information. By carefully following standardized guidelines, healthcare professionals can responsibly use social media to improve the coordination of patient care. For more information, please visit the website.
Class, up here on the screen, I have some practice questions and NCLEX style questions related to using social media. So let's go over these questions. Which of the following is not an example of social media? I think you can see from the screen that D is the answer. Obviously, blogs, wikis, and social bookmarking are all examples of social media. And question 2, which of the following is not one of the ANA principles for social networking? And the answer to that is C. Always use a pseudonym on social media sites. This is not an ANA principle for social networking. We should be following ethical guidelines, and this is the first ANA principle for social networking. Observe HIPAA rules and regulation. This is the third ANA principle for social networking, and hold other healthcare professionals accountable for their social media presence. And this is the fifth ANA principle for social networking. But again, the choice of letter C, always use a pseudonym on social media sites, is not an ANA principle for social networking. Here's question 3. A nurse was frustrated about her day at work and went home and vented on Facebook about her incompetent coworkers. Which areas was she non-compliant? Was it A, HIPAA, B, facility policies where you work, C, state common law and regulatory protection for patient confidentiality, D, the American Nurses Association Code of Ethics, or E, both B and D? And the answer to that question was B, obviously the facility policies where she works. She disclosed that her facility has lots of incompetent coworkers, which results in a bad image for the facility. And then it does relate to the American Nurses Association Code of Ethics. Our Code of Ethics requires us to preserve and maintain the integrity of our profession, which the nurse failed to do by discrediting her co-workers. So the answer to that is E, B, and D. So let's look at this case study below and answer the following questions. Stephanie is an experienced nurse working on an oncology unit. One of her patients, Jane, keeps an online blog outlining her battle with cancer. In one of Jane's recent posts, she states, "I'm frustrated that nothing seems to treat my pain effectively. With nothing alleviating my pain, I feel like my depression is only worsening." Stephanie saw Jane's post and responded, "I understand your last few days have been difficult. Hopefully the new depression medication in combination with the increased dose of pain medication will provide you with some relief. I look forward to seeing you two at your appointment on Thursday." The next day it occurred to Stephanie that she may have violated Jane's private patient information. Considering the case study above, what should Stephanie's first step be? And this is very similar to the example on the video or the movie that I just showed you regarding the experienced nurse Jason. So what should she do? So looking at the responses, nothing. She was only supporting and showing empathy towards Jane's situation, not to mention the blog is only accessible by people Jane selected. B, attempt to delete the post as soon as possible. C, report herself immediately to her employee's board of nursing. And D, to get Jane's verbal permission to share those aspects of her health information. And the answer to that is C, and I think you probably got that correct, seeing that this is what exactly Jason did in our video. He did report himself to the employee's board of nursing and also to the state's board of nursing. And so Stephanie's behavior should be reported in order to take appropriate steps. This nurse may face interdisciplinary actions and towards the situation, and even the state's Ohio Board of, or for instance, it would be our Ohio Board of Nursing, would definitely review this situation and decide what they would do, because if they violated HIPAA or whatever, they may have their license revoked, maybe temporarily, or could be for a long period of time. So number 5, which of the following outlines the professional standards that have been developed for nurses in an effort to provide a set of principles that aid in ethical problem solving? And the answer to that is D, would be the ANA Code of Ethics, which provide professional standards that have been developed by the American Nurses Association for nurses in an effort to provide a set of principles to aid in ethical problem solving. So I just wanted to go over those questions with you and really make you think about how I've got to be careful about what I do in regards to my patients, their privacy, confidentiality. I know as student nurses they get excited, and you can tell that this student nurse that we saw in the video, Emily, looked like an exceptional student nurse. She looked like she was providing good care to her pediatric patient, but unfortunately she went outside her boundaries, violated HIPAA, and posted a picture of the young boy. And you can see that this costs not only her her chance of ever becoming a nurse by being expelled from the nursing program, but did you see how that also cost the school that particular clinical site? So these are things that we've got to be very careful about, and also things like our professional behavior. And let me give you an example of that. Maybe you as a group get done with your clinicals and you all decide to go out to lunch. Well, let's look at yourselves. You're all in your LCC uniform. You're representing LCC, and it wouldn't be in good taste to begin drinking and posting pictures, especially if some student nurse would start to drink a little bit too much and get a little bit rowdy and then start posting pictures on social media. It could really give a bad image to that student nurse as well as to the school in which she is enrolled in. And the school might have to review the situation and could possibly dismiss the student from the program. So these are things that you got to be very careful about. And when in doubt, I think it's important that you ask an authoritative figure, or just don't post anything at all. Be careful the kind of comments you make about certain situations in your life that you might put on Facebook, especially if you've had a very frustrating day. I have heard from students who have graduated from our program that during their interview process, they were definitely looked at as far as what kind of postings they are putting on their Facebook page, or what kind of pictures that they're posting on Instagram. And if an employer finds out that students are, or a graduate nurse who's seeking employment is putting very unprofessional types of pictures about herself or anybody else, or making comments that are very derogatory, that employer may not hire that new grad. And this could occur in many facilities where the graduate nurse could have a very hard time getting a job. So you've got to be very careful what you write in Facebook. You just never know where that information will go, whose hands it will get into. And so it's just not limited to being a student nurse and going to clinicals and being sure that you don't post any particular pictures or state any particular patient's room number, or even refer to a patient in any way whatsoever. Those things all must remain confidential and be kept only there in the facility. You've got to be careful about what you talk about with your fellow student nurses. You go to the cafeteria, you've got to be careful about what you talk about, especially in regards to HIPAA. Be careful using your phone in the clinical area. Some facilities do not even allow that to be present anywhere near patient care. So you need to know what the policies of the institution are, so there's no chance that you would violate anything and then, of course, in the long run lose your job. So I just wanted to make sure that you really stopped and thought about social media, posting pictures, because now we have this capability. People don't buy cameras anymore because we have cameras on our phones. And let's face it, our phones are just little mini computers that we have in our pockets, that we have access to so much information out there, social media, and we're always excited about some of the experiences we face, and we're excited to share that, but we've got to be very, very careful what we do, because there sometimes can be a very fine line that may violate HIPAA as well as violation of professional behavior. And I can't stress that as much as I am, because you did see with our student boot camp that professionalism was one of our topics that the senior students presented to you. So we take professionalism very seriously, and I hope that as you continue to go through this program that you take it very seriously as well, and continue to take it seriously even upon graduation and as you work as a professional nurse. Because the minute we do something to violate that professionalism or violate our patient's confidentiality, we could end up in serious trouble. And like the video said, most violations are not done purposefully to make a patient look bad. They're done usually in an innocent way where someone did not know what the policies were and then thought about it afterwards and realized, wow, I shouldn't have done that because I didn't realize that that would go public. And I guess what I said really conveyed more information than I thought it did. So just to think about it, and to be very aware of what you say, even when you're out in public, even just as so much as walking out of the facility, because you never know who's behind you or who's next to you that can overhear what you see or what you say to somebody else that's walking with you. You've got to be very careful. I have a daughter that works at Fairview Hospital, and she works in labor delivery, and even as her mother, she has not told me some of the celebrities, especially very, very noticeable sports figures in the Cleveland area that may be on such teams like the Cavs or the Indians, who have come in to her department and their wives have had children, and to go around and tell everybody that so-and-so is here and his wife is in labor and having a baby is absolute no-no, and she doesn't even give that information to me, and I'm her mother. So I appreciate and respect the fact that she keeps that information confidential, because if she did tell me who was in there having a baby, it would definitely be a violation against the privacy of that person that's in there. Just because he's famous and he's a big sports player, we should not be talking about things that are going on, even if it's not an illness and it's something as happy as, having a child. That's still a violation of HIPAA. No one should know that that sports figure and his family or his wife are up there having a baby. So, and that may be the case with you. You may be a nurse someday, and you're on a particular unit working, and all of a sudden you see that your neighbor was just admitted with a very sensitive diagnosis. You would be very careful not to go around and tell people that guess who just got admitted from the neighborhood, and let me tell you what is her problem or his problem. So these are things that we have to do in order to protect our jobs, protect our licensure, and yet it's the right thing and the ethical thing to do as well. So I just thought that you would find this information very interesting, and this is something we have to bring to the attention of our students and make sure that we are definitely enforcing this, probably within every course, that students really, really do respect our patients' confidentiality, and also be careful what you put on social media. Snapchat, all these things are great things to have fun with our friends. Maybe you want to, tell somebody you're on this great vacation and post some of the beautiful pictures. Say, for instance, if you're, on a cruise, or you're going to a place that is just an absolutely breathtaking place. But be careful. I've even cut down on doing that because I always worry that if I go on vacation and my house is empty and I post that, hey, I'm in vacation, I'm at this particular destination, I'm always worried who's going to get that information, because I don't want to come home and find out that my home has been robbed because, someone out there was aware that my home was empty and that I was on vacation, and I was a perfect target for someone to break into my house. So these are the kind of things that we just got to be careful of. And so I hope I've impacted your thinking about how to use social media in the best way possible that does not violate anything with our nursing profession, and definitely does not violate anything associated with the patients that we care for. And up here on the screen, I'm just providing you some additional information, kind of to sum up what we've already talked about. Discussing HIPAA, passage of the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996 means that patients hold their rights over their own health information, and it establishes rules and limits as to who can receive it. HIPAA calls this kind of privacy information protected health information and defines it as anything transmitted or maintained in electronic media or any forms of media. And according to our National Council of State Boards of Nursing, confidential information can be shared only under 3 specific circumstances. The patient has provided informed consent, the situation in which it's legally required, or when failure to disclose the information could result in significant harm. Any breach of trust associated with the nurse-patient relationship can have repercussions, and it can damage the overall trustworthiness of the nurse, the organization in which the violation occurred, and the nursing profession as a whole. And the following are just breaches of patient confidentiality confidentiality or privacy on social media platforms. Whether it's intentional or not intentional, it doesn't matter. If it happens, it happens, and you can still face the consequences. First one is videos or photos of patients, even if they can't be identified. Photos or videos that reveal room numbers or patient records, description of patients, their medical conditions and or treatments, and referring to a patient in a degrading or demeaning manner. But in the next paragraph, there are positive ways a nurse can use social media, and these are some examples. Blogs. John Lincoln of internet marketing company Ignite Visibility suggests that increasing their visibility through an online presence can help nurses advance in their career, leading in some cases to a promotion and a raise. One nurse put a blog that was about the nerdy nurse, that maintaining and reading blogs give nurses the opportunity to teach others, inspire others, and find support. Not only can you build a reputable presence on your blog, but as Wilson goes on to say, you may even be able to use it as a means of earning extra income as a wellness expert or health coach, using your professional credentials to establish your credibility. Twitter could be a way in which you can positively use social media. Twitter is a popular real-time form of communication. It's one of the easiest ways to maintain contact with others, especially in a time of crisis. So, 313 million adults worldwide have Twitter accounts. Twitter also is an effective way to create a health-related conversation with the public or get a healthcare-related topic trending. In nursing school, students learn the hashtags most likely to lead to effective communication on Twitter, create awareness about preventive health campaigns, find employment, and stay up to date on the technology advancements. Another very popular one is Facebook. And as of December 2018, Facebook had 2.32 billion users worldwide. And we know how what an impact Facebook can have, okay? We can put videos, post photos, all kinds of things. And there is an inherent need within healthcare to pass information on to a particular patient and to connect with a patient on a level that promotes not only biological health, but also psychological health and community health. YouTube is another way, and this is how I post my videos. The videos that I'm posting for you this weekend to replace our classroom are for public viewing. And I have gone back on my YouTube account and have seen that many people have viewed my videos on YouTube. And they're all about, the things that I teach my students in our program. Discussion groups is also another way. Maybe you belong to the American Association of Critical Care Nurses, and you might want to answer questions, put on some questions, communicate with other nurses who are also critical care nurses, and just share information. And also it can be a way to support each other when things are, really rough out there in our nursing profession. But then now we have the information about when should not use media, when not to use social media, and these are some of the reasons why we should not be using social media: to complain about or comment about patients, post photographs, rant about our place of employment, blow off work-related steam, or use offensive language or voice offensive comments. So you as students, be very careful if you're having a bad day or you did bad on a test. Don't get on your social media accounts and start blasting your instructors in our nursing program. These things, if they get out, could have quite a very negative impact on your future of becoming a nurse. So there are some social media policies out there. An increasing number of hospitals, medical facilities, and healthcare employees are in the process of developing and implementing their own social media policies. And those will be the AMA and even like the Cleveland Clinic. And many of you will graduate and get a job within the Cleveland Clinic or University Hospital. They will give you specific rules as they hire you to tell you what you are allowed and not allowed to do on your social media accounts. And these are some of the consequences of social media abuse. And you can see that it could be fine, suspension, required sensitivity training, expulsion from nursing school, termination of employment, loss of licensure, criminal charges, and jail time. So, very, very serious. And these are some examples of some important news. Well, I'm not saying that the news was important, but it might be a movie star or some kind of celebrity. According to nurses.org, at least 50 employees, including nurses at Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago, were fired in May of 2019 after they allegedly viewed actor Jesse Smollett's medical records after he was treated at the hospital. Apparently, the employers were simply curious about the case, but improperly viewing patient medical files for any reason is considered a HIPAA violation. And this was also a similar thing that happened when President Clinton years ago had a coronary artery bypass, and a lot of the nurses in the hospital knew that he was a patient in that hospital, and they went on the computer inside the electronic medical records and looked up his chart on the computer, and they weren't even taking care of him, but kind of wanted to know a little bit about his history and how he was doing, and kind of that very intricate pieces of information about him. And it was found out that the nurses were doing that, and those nurses were as well fired. So you cannot do that, okay? And even as a student nurse, you're only allowed to be permitted to know about the information of the patients that are on your unit that you're assigned to. So for example, if you're on the third floor, and that's where your patient assignment is, and that's where your clinical assignments are at, say for instance you know of somebody that has a very sensitive diagnosis, and you know that they were admitted to that hospital and they're up on the 5th floor, you cannot get into the computer to look up that patient or somebody that you may know to kind of find out more information about them. That is a violation of HIPAA, and the school will definitely expel you from the program, and it could also cost the nursing school or the nursing program that particular facility for clinicals, just like what happened to Emily. So in the video I watched that you guys watched. So these are things you got to think about, okay? So I just wanted to go over all this. I think it brings the necessary attention to this particular thing in today's world. When I was in school, obviously we had nothing of this to worry about. We just had to be careful what we said in the hallways or in the cafeterias, but you can see now it's quite more extended out into the public because of information technologies. I hope providing you this information in these two videos kind of takes the place of what we would have done in class on Monday. As you're viewing these videos and kind of following along with some of your handouts from the lecture section, if you have any questions, just let me know. I think it's a good foundation. Just make sure you do your reading and watch the videos that I've asked that you do view. Will give you a better understanding. And refer to the different resources of information that I ask you to, for instance, your concepts books as well as your clinical skills book. I hope you have a great weekend, and let me know if you have any questions. I will also be posting just a summary of what would have occurred in your lab this week on Monday. So I will make that a separate lecture so that the lab instructors on Wednesday do not have to make up Monday's lab that you will not be there to go to because it's a holiday. All right, class, take care, and we'll see you all on Wednesday.